Hello, everyone. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the last panel of the morning. And for this panel, we have an esteemed guest, one of the OGs of blockchain, Mr. Charles Dossi, APAC Managing Director of ConsenSys. Hello, Charles. How are you? I think you're on mute. That's the...
Here we go. The mute thing. Good morning, Bangkok. Good morning, Thailand. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for taking the time. We have a lot of people from Thailand, but also from Singapore, Vietnam, Hong Kong, Philippines joining the event. So it's kind of a Southeast Asian thing now, which is what we intended to be. And I'm Max, for the one who just joined. I'm the CMO of Atato. We are the organizer of the Ethereum Bangkok, but we are also a ConsenSys partner. And we work with Charles for the past years. So before I will let you introduce yourself, who you are, and for people who are not familiar with the juggernaut that is ConsenSys, if you can just give a few lines.
Sure. Maybe, Maxime, before we start, I just want to say thank you to Atato, to the Ethereum Thailand and Southeast Asia community. I think there is many people standing up and doing many events and making sure there is knowledge being shared. There is social events, should they be virtual or physical. So I just want to say thank you and express, I guess, the community gratitude for all these efforts you've been doing for so many years, and it's an example of consistency and commitment. So it's super meaningful. So thank you for that. Very briefly, my name is Charles. I live in Hong Kong for the past 15 years. I was obviously born in France before that. I lead ConsenSys here in Asia Pacific. ConsenSys in APAC, it's offices in Hong Kong, Singapore, Australia, and Japan. I was involved in the blockchain fairly early on. I came from a strong passion when I was a student on file sharing and distributed systems to share videos and music. And then I discovered peer-to-peer money in the form of Bitcoin. And later I discovered the smart contracts on Ethereum, and decided eventually after 3 years at the Hong Kong government as a head of fintech, I decided to join ConsenSys and make my career fully dedicated to blockchain. ConsenSys is a 6-year-old company. We've been created by Joseph Lubin, the co-founder of Ethereum, together with Vitalik and some others. And we've been focused on blockchain infrastructure and blockchain technology for the past 6 years. So it gives us a lot of experience, a lot of tools which we've been developing over the years. So probably all of you in the audience are familiar with MetaMask. I wear my MetaMask t-shirt today to celebrate the 10 million milestone. So 10 million users of MetaMask today is just amazing. To give you, Maxime, a sense of how our ecosystem is growing, last August 2020, there was about 1 million users of MetaMask. August 2021, 10 million users. So it went 10x. Expect some announcement from MetaMask about the growth of the numbers. The public number is 10 million now, but you can only imagine that this number is growing very quickly.
And Jacob actually was hinting to that on the first panel, that saying he can't say it today, but the number is much bigger. So I guess it's going to be impressive growth before the end of the year.
Absolutely. So ConsenSys, it's MetaMask, it's Codify, which is an application layer for the banks to help tokenizing assets. ConsenSys Quorum is also the blockchain layer available at ConsenSys. So we can develop on Go Quorum, the formerly project from JP Morgan, which is now part of the ConsenSys family, as well on Hyperledger Besu. And Infura as well, if you are a developer, you're probably familiar with Infura, which essentially is the go-to solution to connect your decentralized application to the mainnet and guarantee execution. So today the company is about 500 people. spread all over the world, with groups which are dedicated to the protocol development. So ConsenSys has been always very involved in the Ethereum protocol development. So we've been involved in EIP 1559, and we have also our own Ethereum 2 client called Teku. And we have groups which are more focusing on the middleware, groups taking care of the application layer, such as Codify, MetaMask, and some others, as well as professional services and security services. So yeah, that's in a nutshell ConsenSys.
All right. And before we go in ConsenSys in general, you know, you and I, we met in DEF CON in Osaka, Japan 2 years ago. No, 2 years, it was 2019. It was the last DEF CON. I think we saw so many things happening for the past 2 years. Just would like to have your take on what do you think has been achieved, and just your reflection on the past 2 years, and if there is any things that you felt that was too fast or too slow. I just would like to have your opinion.
2 years ago, we were still into a market which was, I would say, rebuilding. Lately, we started again a new market bull, if I can say so. So it brings a lot of energy, obviously. But over these past 2 years, what has been happening in terms of numbers for the ecosystem is really impressive. And beyond the sentiment or beyond the value of certain tokens, I think it's important to come back to purely data points to understand what has been happening and build your strategy. Should it be a personal strategy for your career in blockchain or for your projects? Looking at the number of Ethereum addresses, for example, it gives you a very good sense of what's happening in the ecosystem. So now we have more than 175 million Ethereum addresses, close to 4 million DeFi users. The NFT, I think, have surprised everyone by the pace of explosion. 2 years ago, NFTs were already existing, but they did not get the right product market fit or the right attention at the time. But it's definitely right now an NFT boom. And I think what is very interesting is this platform we are all building upon. Should you be building on Ethereum with a private network in the enterprise world or on the mainnet? This platform and this technology is evolving very, very quickly. So we went through the EIP 1559, which is now something of the past, but it was a lot of work from a lot of teams to implement, essentially creating a base fee for all the transactions, creating transactions which will be much more ready for Ethereum 2. We went through an upgrade of the Ethereum nodes, Ethereum 2 nodes via Alter, which is also showing a very strong sign of progress and tangible progress for ETH2. And from the last, I would say the last work session, which was in Greece with the core developers of Ethereum, it looks like by Q1 next year, the merge will happen. So to me, what is very impressive is the tooling, which has been growing around the Ethereum, but Ethereum itself as a platform has been maturing, has been getting ready for its next wave of growth, and it's just it's when the toolbox evolve for everyone at the same time, it's very inclusive. And it allows any developer, should they be from North America, Europe, Asia, Southeast Asia, or anywhere. I think what is very empowering and exciting is to see that all these tools become available to everyone for all your projects. Should they be enterprise, government projects, DeFi project, NFTs, or any others. So I think it's super energizing. The only thing I think we should still make more efforts on is thinking on the product design and the user experience. We tend to be within ourselves in conversation with people which are experienced, very enthusiastic about the technology, but the reality is a journey for newcomers is still a learning curve. So I think if there is something we should all think of is how we can design product which brings less friction, which are more more natural to be used by the new users to keep growing the user base essentially.
Yeah, I totally agree, and you give me the tools for my transition. I mean, for the past, I would say 1 year and a half, ConsenSys, and especially ConsenSys Hong Kong, has been involved in what we think is going to be a major change for blockchain, is central bank digital currencies. You worked with the Bank of Thailand. Here, ConsenSys has been really on the map with this project with the Hong Kong HKMA. So just would like if you can tell us what's happening, what is a central bank digital currency, and what do you see it happening during different central banks in Southeast Asia?
So CBDCs stands for central bank digital currencies, and for the ecosystem, the signal to all of us is that governments and regulators are pro-blockchain. And by working so actively on this topic of central bank digital currencies, which most of them are built right now on Ethereum, it's a very strong endorsement. It's a very strong endorsement for the technology. It's not only the DeFi ecosystem or the bubble where some of us can be sometime, but the technology is really spreading. And you've got governments, regulators embracing eventually, after a lot of studies, the technology and building on it. What it means for societies is that money will be money, which is essentially the oxygen for the economy, the oxygen for many households and everything, is moving as well into a new form onto blockchain infrastructure. So it's a very strong signal, and it's a strong endorsement that the technology is accepted by many more people besides the traditional developers of new products, and it means that there will be more and more opportunity to connect all these different projects, feed them with central bank digital currencies, feed them with stable coins. So all of this isolated pool of innovation are starting to converge. And what's happening in finance and at central bank levels is that they really acknowledge that the existing legacy systems and legacy pipes for money and finance in general really need an upgrade, and blockchain is part of it. So if you think about it, when you start to put a CBDC on the blockchain, CBDC is money. Should it be a Thai baht, a Hong Kong dollar, or Singapore dollar, or anything like this? And you start to move money to new pipes and new platforms, it will have an effect on all the ecosystem after that. So when the central banks, which is the beginning of the value chain of financial services, start to work on the new form of money, the banks, the brokers, the capital markets, the wealth management industry, the payment industry, will all have this opportunity to get this upgrade on their infrastructure for their respective businesses. The same way you can upgrade your phone with the latest software and get more features and be more pleased experimenting your everyday digital life.
Okay, and for people who are not very familiar with what ConsenSys is, what does ConsenSys do on a CBDC project? Is it advisory, development? Can you just explain basically what is ConsenSys role? Sure.
So we sometimes have a component of advisory, but it's really ConsenSys is a building is a building partner for all these central banks. So we help essentially to reshape use cases which are presented to us by the central banks, reshape them so they can fit into a blockchain project, and then we deploy those platforms, and we help the banks. Usually there is a central bank, there is participating banks, so we help to coordinate, we adjust a little bit the use case, and then we deploy teams of engineers from ConsenSys, engineers from partners as well, and we simply build this blockchain. Later, we build the application layer. So for CBDCs, we will have specific applications to be able to mint CBDCs, to redeem CBDCs, to distribute CBDCs. And then we deep dive with our partners into the specific opportunities of the technology. So we look, for example, at scalability of blockchain. It's a very big topic, obviously. So how can you build a layer 2 on your CBDC blockchain? So we have tools at ConsenSys for that. So we develop layer 2. We test these platforms. So going up to 18,000 transactions per second, managing 100 millions of wallets. So we really work as partner and technology partner with the central banks to help them test the technology, identify the real value of the use case they might have identified, and build with them the roadmap of implementation. I think the days of POCs there is still POCs happening right now, but every single central banks now have a very clear and firm agenda on going into production.
So that's my next question. So when are we going to see a live CBDC in a country? Can you have a guess, or maybe you know more than us?
So first, Maxime, two types of CBDCs. The wholesale CBDCs between central banks and commercial banks. Probably they will be the first one because they are a little bit easier to deploy. There is not so many banks and to interact with, and it's easier in terms of regulation. The second category of CBDCs are retail CBDCs. So my prediction is probably within Q1 next year, we will see the Chinese CBDC being deployed for the retail users. And you will start to see wholesale CBDC transactions within second part of 2022. And the interesting point here is CBDCs now have competition with the stable coins. So you might be familiar with the stable coins in the crypto market, such as USDC, USDT, and many others. But there is also a new wave of regulated stable coins issued by regulated banks. And I can tell you for sure that there is some very interesting project which will go live within 2021, so within the end of this year, for wholesale stablecoin, and it will be interesting to see the competition that the market will offer, and the competition between central bank digital currency, so money issued by a central bank, by a government, and the competition between banks, money and stablecoin issued by a private bank, a regulated stablecoin. So what we will have in the coming years, we will have the choice to get, for example, our US dollar either from Facebook, or a US dollar from your bank, or a US dollar from another type of companies. So we will start to see for the first time branded money. And all these different currencies with different brands will be specifically designed for special use. Some of these currencies will be stable coins, will be really optimized for capital market applications, for example. Some others will be optimized for e-commerce. So it will be very interesting to see how the game plays and how the market responds to choice. Having your currency from your national bank, central bank, or getting currencies from private entities. Some regulators have already defined some rules. There will be only one currency in the domestic markets. It will be only issued by the central banks. Some other currencies will remain much more open, and I guess it's a great way to stimulate innovation.
Well, it's a good transition because obviously it's the Ethereum Bangkok, so we are talking about Ethereum blockchain, right? But I would like to talk a bit about competition because when you are building, you have competitions from other blockchains. Other companies actually are doing blockchains for financial institutions. Hyperledger, IBM was one. You had Art Recorder. How do you see the competition, and what do you see as the evolution of competition in that space?
In the world of enterprise, the market started with technologies for blockchain which were only dedicated to private blockchains. So if you think of Hyperledger Fabric, it's one example. I'm not going to name other names, but if you're familiar with the technologies, there is technologies which can only be deployed in a private setting. And that was great to start the industry in general. What we see now is people who wants to have the ability to have a private network, but they also want to get access to public networks so they can get the reach. They can reach to more people. So what we see very clearly is a migration from intranet type of blockchains to internet type of blockchains, and this is what where Ethereum is a very strong play. Banks, central banks come to us now and they say, okay, we need to have a private blockchain, so you can build a private blockchain on Ethereum technology. It's just a question of settings, but we know for a fact that we will connect to the mainnet at some point, and that's why they are migrating to Ethereum. So there is this first component in the growth and the growing success of Ethereum is privacy plus mainnet access, which give you overall reach. That's number one. Number two, when the industry started, let's say 3-5 years ago, there was no clarity on what kind of architecture would have trades off, and everyone has been doing his research, and the conclusion of this research is that you want to use technologies which have an account and a token base within the architecture. And some other intranet type of blockchains will be only account based, for example. Therefore, when you create a token, it's just limit the number of use cases. And that's why also you see a lot of people jumping on Ethereum because you've got this account and token architecture, plus you've got this privacy and reach as well. There is competition. So there is competition in the EVM space. So what is very interesting is people recognize that Ethereum and the EVM is a very strong value proposition, but sometimes they will modify their chain for specific use cases. So we see multiple EVM type of blockchain coming into the market. There is other blockchain. We can mention Solana. We can mention some others which will come over. I think at the end of the day, it's good to have competition first. Some of these blockchains will find their use case, they will find their market, they will find their product market fit. They will be optimized for specific use. But what we see as numbers is people keep converging on Ethereum. Ethereum is offering with the second layer, Arbitrum, Optimism, Polygon, and many others, the scalability issue, the scalability options, as well as blockchains which are specific for use case. I'm thinking of Palm, for example, in the NFT world, and Ethereum being really the base layer for security. So there is clearly some competition, but if you think of the world of enterprise, if you think of the number of developers, enterprise needs services, excuse me, they need software, which is mature software. So the enterprise will not jump on the latest blockchain, for example. It's not going to happen. They will want to have software which is more stable, maintained by organizations such as Hyperledger, for the case of Hyperledger Bezu. And I think that's what makes the decision. And as well as the reach, there is bigger audience within the Ethereum ecosystem. There is more developers to grow your team and build products. So there is clearly competition. Competition is welcome and is very healthy. But Ethereum is definitely a super strong candidate for the blockchain ecosystem in general.
All right, and of course we're in the Ethereum Bangkok, so we are a bit biased. But here in Thailand, what we have seen is really enterprises and financial institutions going into what we call the digital asset space. It's regulated in Thailand. You have digital asset exchanges, you have ICOs, which are more STOs. So this is really the use case that we are seeing in Thailand from a lot of different companies. I guess it's the same that what you see in the rest of Southeast Asia. How ConsenSys can help this business actually starting their digital asset journey?
Thailand is really under the radar. You guys in Thailand have licenses in place for years. It has took time before everything got in place, but there is a lot of activity over there. It's just mind-blowing. And I think it's something many people in the global audience are missing for now. So it's always good to highlight the great work over there. So a lot of things happening. The way we help companies, we just help them to bring them to production. The technology is there. So how do you get from the concept to going to production? How do you get a stable system? How do you get a system which will be served for several years? How can you reduce your timeline to develop these systems and your cost as well by using some software which are modular and helping you to execute on this project? So that's really the way we help those companies.
Like Codify? It's the
Codify
tools.
Yeah, Codify is one, as well as services. If you build a platform, we can maintain the platform for several years and getting you support essentially for the platform. So if you get a problem, you get response within 1 hour, 7 days a week. So these kind of services are very important for large scale projects. So some people can serve their own product by themselves, but if you think of an enterprise project or a government project, there is a need for this professional companies around the core product, around the protocol. So that's great business which ConsenSys is involved with.
Okay, and talking about, I mean, every panel we are mentioning about this, right? We had MetaMask, here we had DeFi, or we had Baker McKenzie talking about it. It's the growing of NFTs, NFT marketplace, and NFT in general. There was some recent announcement that ConsenSys purchased a company called Ethereum, specialized in NFTs. Can you expand on more about what ConsenSys is doing on the NFT market and anything you can share?
So we've been working on NFTs since 2017 in the very early days. We have now matured the product. The market has been maturing as well. We are obviously involved in all the art related NFTs. Maybe what is interesting to capture, I don't want to repeat what previous panelists might have mentioned. What we believe at ConsenSys is NFT is obviously very visible right now through arts and this kind of application of the NFT technology. But we are also using NFTs for carbon credit markets, for example. There is fantastic use case of NFTs within the wealth management industry. So we really look at being an engineering company. We will look at the NFT with starting from the technology itself. The ERC 721 or 1155, what are these different ERC templates? How can we implement them into different use cases and different industries? So I believe the NFT for art market, my personal opinion, it's a little bit hot right now. So there is maybe too much attention on this, but definitely the core functionalities of an NFT are already finding fit within many use cases. Among them is finance, but there will be many more. Think of the automotive industry. Think of everywhere where you need to have a single asset with capability to get metadata moving from one blockchain to another or one system to another. So we will look at this from the engineering perspective.
Okay, thanks for the recap. And I have two kind of last questions. The first one is related to ConsenSys in general. I mean, this year in 2021, you guys have been on the news mostly for central bank digital currency projects all over Southeast Asia and Australia also. If you can share, what do you think are the big projects happening for ConsenSys on the enterprise side in 2022?
I think we will keep building on central bank digital currencies, keep helping the capital market to renovate themselves. A lot of activity on carbon credit, as I was mentioning. And the product of ConsenSys will keep growing. If you think of MetaMask, there is maybe Jacob was giving you a little bit of an idea of what's happening with those products, but those products are really, I think, part of the legacy of the ecosystem, and they are growing with the ecosystem. So they get more connectivity, they get additional features to help everyone growing. I'm not going to say it's ConsenSys roadmap for next year, but I think where we should all think and pay more attention is how can we make sure there is some topics which are still on the sidelines or where we haven't progressed fast enough because they are complicated, and we should make them happen. I'm not worried about scalability. I think this is solved. We just need to be patient. I'm more thinking of the onboarding journeys, so the user experience. And the big topic, which to me is still a little bit still to progress, is identity. How can we get an identity within all these systems? How can we get a wallet connected to the outside world so it can be our digital identity more? So I think there is a lot of work to be done there. We're busy at ConsenSys improving this stack as well. so it can be useful. But I think regulations are coming around a lot of the activities we see in DeFi and possibly in NFT later on, and these regulations will always ask for more identification of people, such as KYC and having your identity portable. So we did a project with the Chinese University of Hong Kong here on COVID data wallet, a wallet which was dedicated to your COVID-related event. Are you vaccinated? First shot, second shot? Did you take your temperature? Did you visit an official doctor? So it's part of your health identity, right? So that's a very interesting product stack which we aim at growing, and we presented a few days ago at the ASEAN summit a travel passport, allowing people to essentially go cross-border, but being able to document in a certain way their state of vaccination. So I think identity is a topic which will help glue many of the different initiatives and opportunities for the ecosystem.
And thanks for the recap. And I just would like to come back on ConsenSys as a company itself, because we talked a lot about you building projects for enterprises and also on product. So ConsenSys being, I would say, a product company, can you explain? You have the product division and also the enterprise side that you are taking care of. How is it divided? How do you work together? Just to have a recap on ConsenSys in general.
Sure. So essentially 3 groups: the protocol groups, the groups of products, MetaMask. Sometimes you have subgroups. MetaMask Institutional is one sub-product of MetaMask, which we just launched. Infura and all the products. And then we have professional services. So professional services is where we help enterprise, we help startups, we help fintechs, governments to essentially build their blockchain projects using some of the ConsenSys products. So we work very closely with the product teams on a daily basis, because we implement those products in enterprise, and we collect feedback, we collect features, ideas to help this product mature and go from one version to another.
Okay, and my last question to wrap it up on the state of Ethereum itself. I'm not asking Charles, the APAC director of ConsenSys. I'm asking Charles, the OG in the blockchain ecosystem. What is your view for the next 2 years for Ethereum in general?
Super bullish. A lot of activity, a lot of talents moving to the Ethereum ecosystem, should it be directly or indirectly. When I look at people I know, which how many friends we all have in this room, asking us, how can I start a career in this space? Some of them are coming from banking, some of them are coming from traditional tech. So I'm very excited about talents. I really believe it's the oxygen for everything. And much more applications and being some kind of ubiquitous. So really excited about the space, and I believe we will not get through the same cycles and the same cycles as before. There might be some up and down for sure, but I think with the base of users now, with the diversity of users, the diversity of use cases, this up and down will be less brutal. And the pie will keep growing for everyone, and more people will be involved in certain ways. And some people will be doing blockchain without even realizing, and that's something I'm super excited as well.
So you mean like no more meeting for education and explaining what is blockchain? I think we are past this stage, or are you still?
I think that's a good question. I think we will not need to explain the technology too much anymore, but we will need to educate people on the new use cases. So maybe you don't need to explain anymore why the consensus algorithm you choose on this blockchain, or about TPS and gas fee and all these things, but you will need to educate the people and saying you are part of a DAO now, and this project is a DAO, and as a user you will be able to vote. So I think we will need to keep educating people on Web3 and do less education on the technology itself. But we should not stop educating. I think topics are changing, and they are just mind-blowing. So when I see NFT, when I see DAOs, There is a lot of things to unpack and to explain over there, but that's the beauty of this journey we are all on.
Where we are all learning every day, still being in the space for many years. Who could have predicted the rise of decentralized finance that fast? And now the NFT or the gaming. So a lot of exciting things. I would like to congratulate you and your team for all the central bank digital currencies project that you have done in 2021. And I think it's going to have some exciting news in 2022 as well. For people who would like to reach out to ConsenSys, you can reach out to Charles and to the Hong Kong team or to us if you are in Thailand and would like to have more information about ConsenSys offering. Thanks again, Charles, for giving us your views at the Ethereum Bangkok in 2021. We look forward to having you as well in 2022. For everyone, there will be a break of 1 hour now for everyone to enjoy their lunch. And then after we have the Ethereum Foundation, we have a DeFi with Aave and Alpha Finance, NFT panel, and also digital asset space with a lot of exciting companies. So please stay tuned, join us this afternoon. And Charles, again, thank you for your time.
Fantastic program, fantastic lineup. So thank you for having me. Have a great day, everyone, and talk to you very soon.
All right. See you in 1 hour, everyone. Bye-bye.